Greetings. Welcome back to IBI India Business Insights. Our nation's developing economy, population, urbanization, changing lifestyles, and purchasing power all contribute to an increase in energy demand. Even with aggressive ethanol blending, most of the fuel is petroleum. India is already slowly switching to ethanol powered vehicles. Today, we will discuss the connection of petrol and sugarcane in this video and how it will help India. This incredibly quick transformation requires collaboration between sugarcane growers, ethanol producers, domestic and foreign automakers, and environmental organizations. This was made possible by the radical public policy that was initially implemented in response to the oil price rise. It also helps reap the environmental advantages of moving away from petroleum. Today, India imports 85% of its oil requirement. The Indian economy is expected to grow steadily despite temporary setbacks due to the COVID pandemic. This would result in a further increase of vehicular population, which in turn will increase the demand for transportation fuels. Domestic biofuels provide a strategic opportunity to the country as they reduce the nation's dependence on imported fossil fuels. In addition, when utilized with appropriate care, biofuels can be environmentally friendly, sustainable energy sources. They can also help generate employment, promote Make in India, Swachh Bharat, doubling of farmers' incomes and promote waste to wealth generation. With a view to give boost to the agriculture sector and to reduce environmental pollution, the Government of India had launched pilot projects in 2001 wherein 5% ethanol blended petrol was supplied to retail outlets. Apart from field trials, R&D studies were also simultaneously conducted. The success of these field trials and studies paved the way for ethanol blended petrol in India. The Government of India, with its resolution dated 3rd September 2002, decided to launch ethanol blended petrol program in January 2003 for sale of 5% ethanol blended petrol in 9 states and 4 union territories. India started selling ethanol blended petrol in 2003. The percentage of ethanol blending has now jumped up to 10%. That's quite a jump. There's a reason for this jump. In 2020, the current government set itself a target. It decided to achieve 10 ethanol mixes by 2022 and 20 mixes by 2025. The prices of ethanol produced in India are higher in comparison to global players, since the cost of raw materials, that are sugarcane and food grains, are fixed by the government to support the farming community. Globally, the three major factors that drive the production of ethanol and its usage in the transportation sector are: first, demand enrichment. Government's mandate for blending a minimum percentage of ethanol with gasoline fuel and production of ethanol compatible vehicles. Supply enrichment. Schemes for ethanol production from different feedstocks and encouragement to augment biorefineries and their capacities. Incentives. Promoting the use of higher ethanol blends through price incentives and tax incentives for the vehicle compatible with E20 and E85. Impact on environment. Vehicular emissions such as carbon monoxide, hydrocarbons, and oxides of nitrogen are currently under regulation in India. Use of ethanol blended gasoline decreases their emissions. Higher reductions in carbon monoxide emissions were observed with E20 fuel, 50% lower in two-wheelers and 30% lower in four-wheelers. Hydrocarbon emissions were reduced by 20% with ethanol blends compared to normal gasoline. Overall, ethanol blending can help decrease emissions from both two-wheelers and four-wheelers. The following changes in the production line will be necessary to produce compatible vehicles. Engines and components will need to be tested and calibrated with E20 as fuel. Vendors need to be developed for the procurement of additional components compatible with E20. All the components required can be made available in the country. No significant change in the assembly line is expected. There will be no major structural change in the components in migrating from E10 to E20. There will be changes in material of piston rings, piston heads, O-rings, seals, fuel pumps, etc., all of which can be produced in the country. Ethanol is one of the principal biofuels which is naturally produced by the fermentation of sugars by yeast or via petrochemical processes such as ethylene hydration. Government has allowed ethanol production procurement from sugarcane based raw materials that are C&B heavy molasses, sugarcane juice, sugar, sugar syrup, surplus rice with Food Corporation of India. From the inception of the EBP program, various pricing models have been adopted by the government, which were based on the prevailing macroeconomic situation of the sugar industry and the oil sector. The ethanol procurement gained momentum after the introduction of Administered Pricing Mechanism for ethanol from ESY 2014-15. Prices of ethanol produced from sugarcane sources are approved by the Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs, while that from food grains is decided by OMCs. Since ESY 2018-19, government has introduced a differential pricing policy wherein higher rates were offered to the sugar mills for production of ethanol from B-heavy molasses and sugarcane juice. Further, in ESY 1920, even higher prices were offered for conversion of sugar or sugarcane juice to ethanol. Ethanol, also called ethyl alcohol or alcohol, is an organic chemical compound with chemical formula C2H5OH. Besides the EBP program, ethanol finds competitive usage in the potable sector and the chemical and pharmaceutical industry. Demand for ethanol as a fuel is primarily driven by blending mandates, widespread availability of fuel, and compatible vehicles and fulfillment of other infrastructural requirements. The vehicle population in the country is around 22 crores for 2 and 3 wheelers and around 3.6 crores 4 wheelers. The 2 wheelers account for 74% and passenger cars around 12% of the total vehicle population on the road. Commodity prices have been rallying globally in the last few weeks, with some folks speculating if this is the start of a new commodity super cycle. With all eyes on commodity stocks, the sweetest of them all, sugar industry companies too have been trending higher. Leading players such as Balrampur Chini Mills Limited, Dhampur Sugar Mills Limited and EID Parry saw their stocks hit 52-week highs in June. Balrampur Chini Mills Limited and Dhampur Sugar Mills Limited even hit all-time highs, and some stock prices even doubled in the last 6 months. Sugar manufacturers are a happy lot as they continue to see earning triggers strengthen. Notably, government measures on increasing ethanol blending are providing structural change for the sugar industry. More diversion of sugarcane towards ethanol production and blending should help maintain the domestic demand-supply balance. The combined effect of the above factors is expected to improve the earning profiles and growth trajectory for sugar producers. To produce 684 crore litres of ethanol by the sugar industry by 2025-26, sugarcane equivalent to 60 LMT of surplus sugar would be diverted to ethanol. To produce 666 crore litres of ethanol from food grains by 2025-26, about 165 LMT of food grains would be utilized. At present, damaged food grain availability is around 40 lakh ton in the country. Molasses-based distilleries have also been offered interest subvention to convert them to dual feed to convert both food grains and molasses into ethanol. Thus, it is expected that there would be sufficient ethanol distillation capacity to achieve blending targets. Under PM Jeevan scheme, 12 commercial plants and 10 demonstration plants of second generation biorefineries are planned to be set up in areas having sufficient availability of biomass so that ethanol is available for blending throughout the country. Already, 1969.50 crore rupees have been earmarked for this scheme. These plants can use feedstocks such as rice straw, wheat straw, corn cobs, corn stover, bamboo and woody biomass, etc. Availability of sufficient feedstock on a sustainable basis, such as sugarcane, food grains. Current regulations in the country allow production of ethanol from sugarcane, sugar, molasses, maize, and damaged food grains unfit for human consumptions. Further, surplus rice with FCI is also allowed. States like Chhattisgarh have raised the issue of permitting rice procured by the state government to be allowed for the production of ethanol. The list of feedstocks allowed for production of ethanol needs to be expanded. Augmentation of ethanol production facilities as planned. Weather-related issues, floods, drought, thereby affecting the crop. Prices of feedstock and ethanol. Availability of ethanol across the country. Ethanol is not produced or available in some states for blending with gasoline. Ethanol blending has not been taken up in northeast states due to the non-availability of feedstock or industries. Transport of ethanol to different places for blending will increase the cost of logistics and transport-related emissions. Changes in marketing infrastructure. Need for additional storage tanks for ethanol at marketing terminals. Need for ethanol-compliant dispensing units. Changes in nozzle calibration and legal metrology. Policy guidelines for differential pricing and labeling of various ethanol-blended motor spirits. Challenges to vehicle manufacturers. Handhold vendors to develop ethanol-compatible parts. Optimization of engine for higher ethanol blends. Conduct of durability studies on engines and field trials before introducing E20 compliant vehicles. A 5% blend may not affect the engines, but a 10% mix could create problems. The increase in the amount of ethanol could result in damage to some plastic, rubber, and aluminium components. Don't forget, none of the petrol vehicles that are currently available can run on E20 fuel. However, switching to ethanol fuel and electric vehicle technology is primarily being done to both lower the nation's carbon impact and to take advantage of increasing cost savings. Both industries will create new job possibilities and increase the demand for specialized skill sets that can support an entire new generation of employees. Given these considerations, choosing between ethanol fuel and electric car technology as against continuing with petrol fuel is essentially meaningless when weighed against the benefits of a progressive society and a cleaner environment as a whole. The question, however, remains whether the Indian automakers are ready for the challenge of designing new engines. Will the target of E20 in 2025 make it cheaper for us to own and run our vehicle? We hope that the industry is able to meet these challenges. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned till then and don't forget to subscribe to India Business Insights.